It's driving me nuts.
It's thinking about going live. There we go. Hey, YouTube. Hello. Johnny's at my house, and I'm going to go give him a light behind him so he doesn't look like he's in the closet.
I want to hide in the closet after that game.
I was gonna say, this was
bad.
the first. I was gonna say, well, this is the. We'll put it on the podcast. This was the first full I've watched. This is the first full U.S. men's team game I've ever watched.
Well, and I figured that, so I'm going to be kind of
walk the newbies through why I should be. Now, I will tell you, even then, I noticed it looks like a different. I mean, it clearly looks like Wales got control of themselves the second half. Clearly,
cool. Why not? It's fine. Yeah, and I'll go into detail like why that happened. Because the easy take is, well, Wales came out with energy and they just played better in the second half. Well, okay, like how and why? Like how and why did that happen? Is like every single person, like whether you've watched a soccer game before or not, can say that. Like if you pay attention to the game, like, oh, Wales played better. Well, yes. Right. That's why they scored a goal. Yeah.
Johnny, just so you know, I copied what you had for show notes and put them in our normal folder. So there's like a bunch of different copies floating around.
Oh, okay.
Although actually, I think I see you typing, so I think we're good.
I believe.
Oh yeah, just because I forgot we're logged in on the same user. That's why. I'm looking at myself to it. Perfect.
Yeah, we're all good.
Yep. All right, sweet. I just need to pull up Audacity. I think I'm ready. Okay. Yep. YouTube, hope you guys are doing well. All right. I also think it's not going to pick up like a ton of audio from either one of us, which is exciting. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I mean, I can barely hear you.
Yeah, and that's likewise. So I think we're good. That's nice. Beats the last place for sure. All right, I'm gonna record. Check 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm recording.
And
let me record.
I am recording, and we're picking it up fine. So sweet. We're all good, Aaron.
All right.
I'm gonna hide my clock.
Oh yeah, Johnny, would you just confirm that Audacity's not recording? Well, like there shouldn't be sound when I'm talking. I didn't look. I assume it's just recording only your mic. If that makes sense.
I think it's only recording my mic. I'm gonna stop talking. Talk again here. So
yeah. Check 1, 2, 3. I'm making sure Audacity's not picking up my mic or the stream.
Straight line.
Okay. Should be fine. Perfect. Amazing. Beautiful. All right. Well, I can get us started.
All ready. Ready to go.
Welcome to the Fifth and Goal podcast. My name is Aaron. I am joined once again by my good friends Josh and Johnny. Guys, welcome back to another episode. Gentlemen, it is finally here. The World Cup 2022. It's felt like forever. It's been even longer for us U.S. fans. The U.S. is back in the World Cup. Johnny, I got to start with you because I got to feel like you're kind of living your best life here right now, right? Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, woke up this morning, like just excited already. I'm already a morning person, but I think there were a lot of people across the country and across the world who aren't morning people in the Western Hemisphere that woke up this morning excited. We had that first game at 8:00 this morning with England and Iran. Then we had a really fun match with the Dutch and Senegal. And then, of course, the U.S. and Wales. Obviously, that game didn't go exactly how we wanted. We'll get into that a little bit more. But I love the World Cup. I mean, the last time the U.S. was in the World Cup, I was 17 years old. It's been 8 years. 8 years. And it's been 5 years since that just huge disappointment and letdown in Trinidad. So, all in perspective, psyched to be here. It's different even watching the World Cup. It's fun no matter what, but it's especially fun when your country and your team is there to cheer on as well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Josh, did you get a chance to partake in some U.S. World Cup action today?
I did. I ended up watching. This is only the second soccer football.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize for the first half of this football.
That's America, Josh. It's soccer.
It's soccer. Well, depends on the power of the dollar against the euro, depending on whether or not it's soccer or not.
That is correct.
But watched only the second full match ever in my life. I watched Tottenham Man U over I guess the spring this past year at a fun Tottenham bar down in Austin, and then ended up watching this USA Wales game. So I cheered for my first ever US goal. It was fun.
Yeah.
And then I was really happy because I had picked 1-0. I believe that's what they say over there. 1-0. And then something else happened. And I was sad, but I didn't know why I was sad. So I'm excited for Johnny to tell me why I should have felt the sadness I felt.
Yeah. Obviously, we're talking about this because as we're recording, we are like at barely, not even 3 hours. We're like 3 hours past this game that just finished here on a Monday night. Of course, you're hearing this a little bit later, and by the time you hear this, the U.S. will be closer to playing their second match against England. But yes, of course, we're here. We got to break down this U.S.-Wales game. So yeah, Johnny, over to you, because from my relatively inexperienced perspective, I get really into soccer every 4 years, so I'm still kind of getting accustomed to all of this. And I'm involved in the soccer scene. I do some play-by-play here and there, but this is a little bit different as far as like how precise the formations get when you have these two teams of really what ended up being kind of equally talented, equally, but clearly 1-1 tie was the result of this game. But what were your thoughts? Because this was a tale of two halves.
You know what? When you really break it down and you think about it from what you expected before the match to what actually happened, I'm not shocked by a whole lot.
Yeah.
I expected it to be a very even match. You know, this is why possession percentage can be extremely misleading, especially in the first half. The U.S. dominated, and they dominated the half truly. But even in the second half, that possession percentage is not extremely skewed towards the Welsh. That's not their style of play. They understand if they play straight up with a lot of teams, that's not going to end well. They sit back in their shell. They have an outstanding group of center backs there, that core three, even though they play five back, and they allow those outside backs to press up on a counter. They're just waiting in the wings for that opportunity. Now, U.S. came out with great energy. They looked nervous the first 5 minutes, but after that, they were flying around. They were excited. They didn't look like the moment was too big for them. Some great guys that I think really played well, especially in the first half. Ream at center back. Walker Zimmerman played well in that first half. He kind of fell off a little in the second. Those guys were winning those 50-50 balls in the air. They were not allowing Gareth Bale to get comfortable up top. They weren't allowing the Welsh to press forward to create a gap behind. They were doing an outstanding job, and that allowed our backs, if you were watching the whole formation in that first half, there were many times our whole 11 were on the other side of the field.
Yeah.
And they were high pressing. The Welsh defense was on their heels. They were really struggling. And there were moments where you thought the U.S. really could have gotten a second goal. They really needed to get a second goal. Second half, one of the things that really changed in the second half, yes, there's momentum. Yes, there's energy. Yes, there's also a desperation where I think Wales understood the game. This game was critical for both teams. With Iran looking fairly poor against England, it's really down to what it appears to be Wales and the U.S. for that second spot behind England. So a win today would have been a critical blow to Wales. So if the U.S. is able to hold on, they are just hoping against hope that Iran is able to do something to the U.S. or they're somehow able to do something against England. It gets dicey after that. I think the stat was said 20 times today. 84% of the time, if you win that first game, you go through out of the group stage. So, but one of the substitutions that really, really affected this game, that not a lot of, he's not a big name, not a lot of people know, but he really affected the tone of the game. And that for Wales was, I want to make sure I get this right. Kiefer Moore. That's it, of course. Kiefer Moore really affected that game. Big body, big physical. He's leaning on Walker Zimmerman. He's leaning on Tim Ream and is able to get press high. He should have had a goal on one of his headers that he just missed above the bar. Big physical guy, just helped change the tone, create space for Ramsey and Gareth Bale behind, create that space, get the U.S. defense back so that they had breathing space in their midfield and breathing space on defense. The U.S. match fitness is a concern for me, honestly. They really felt like they lost a lot in the second half. It was a physical game. We can talk about the officiating because that was rough, to say the least. Not the PK, clear call, easy call. But he did not have control of this game and was completely inconsistent the whole time. That's my take overall on the game. I have questions for Greg Berhalter, the U.S. manager. Some of the substitutions he made. I love the starting lineup. Tim Weah, great goal, awesome. We need to talk positively here. I think a 1-1 draw we would have been okay with, honestly, coming into it. It's just how that game happened. Right. Being up 1-0 for 50 or so minutes, I believe. And feeling like you had that opportunity to put Wales away to alleviate some pressure going into England. Right. And so that's a missed opportunity. And that's why Wales is going to feel better than the U.S. with that tie. But we'll talk about really what this looks like going forward in a moment. But do you guys have any questions or immediate thoughts about the game?
So soccer is a game where it's the rounds white ball and you kind of goes back and forth, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm good now. I'm good.
Yeah. All right. I know that was a lot. Hopefully that wasn't too deep of water for all of our listeners.
No, I think that's good because look, we're in this, right? The U.S. is here. We're in the World Cup. We're big soccer fans. We're taking this seriously. I thought the thing that jumped off the page to me was how much of an effort Wales emphasized being as physical as possible, really in all facets of the game, but especially with Christian Pulisic. Like how often was he knocked down? It seemed like every 2 minutes, and a lot of them were fouls, and several of them were called fouls. There was one notable play that was not called a foul that would have been potentially an interesting impact on the game. But I thought that was interesting. I thought right from the get-go, Wales was clearly trying to throw bodies at him as often as possible. I fully expect the following two teams, England and Iran, to do the same thing because he's clearly the playmaker. He had the assist on that goal, and he makes things happen. He's just incredible to watch. It's awesome having a guy like him on your squad. But you're right. I think partially how physical that game was. I would also agree with you. Match fitness is something to watch. I think I'm with you guys. 1-1, not shocking, and I'm okay with it. But you're right. In terms of impact, it's now a must-win against Iran. There's zero question that you absolutely have to get 3 points. Unless you beat England somehow, which the way England looked, I don't think the U.S. is beating England. And I'd love to be wrong, and I hope I am. I'm hoping for a draw against England. That, to me, is best-case scenario, just looking at how these two teams played. And I get it. Very different opponents. Maybe Iran is really not that good. I thought they had a chance coming in to mix it up. Their defense was their strength. That clearly failed them, allowing 6 goals against England. So, and maybe England just fired up for that first game and they'll come back to earth and the U.S. will rise to the occasion on Friday. Who knows? But the way I see it, U.S. is either going to lose or tie to England, hopefully tie, which means that you have to beat Iran, and maybe it's a point where you have to beat Iran by a lot. Hopefully it's not that case. Hopefully we can beat England or draw, kind of control our destiny a little bit more. But that's my concern with this draw, 1-1, because it's tough. It's going to be tight.
Yeah. It's gotten rid of any wiggle room, any sort of barrier. Johnny, can you speak real quick? I noticed a few things when it came to the reffing, but again, I don't have the eye for it. Looks like people who might know more, and again, on Twitter, which, by the way, congratulations that Twitter has not imploded yet.
Yay!
It or not yay? I have no clue.
I don't
But
either.
everyone was like signing their Twitter yearbook Thursday nights, and the next day everything was the exact same.
Yeah.
So
I'm
leave
glad
it to
it's still
Twitter.
here for the World Cup.
Seriously.
Yeah, I was gonna say for the World Cup, I love that it's such a Twitter thing to like sign its own death warrant before it's dead. And anyway, we're not in the what I'm following section yet. The Twitter experts I saw were very upset at a few specific calls, but how was the officiating overall, and what can I be looking for if this is going to be how they're going to call the games going forward?
Yeah, no, great question. It wasn't any one call to me with the officiating. It was completely inconsistent.
Okay.
He gave the U.S. 2 yellow cards immediately in the game, and I believe one was to Dest and one was to
Dest.
Was it McKinney?
Was it the yellow card to?
I'd have to look.
Was it Ream?
They were immediate cards. Ream did get one later in the game, but they were immediate calls, and they were fouls. Don't get me wrong; they were not remotely worth a yellow card at like minute 10. Neither one had spikes up. Both of them were playing the ball. Another call later in the game where he literally attacks Christian Pulisic when the ball's gone. He calls it no card. He has no remote intention of playing the ball. The ball is.
He was not even looking at the ball.
Takes him out, no card. So it was complete inconsistency throughout the game. What was a foul? What wasn't a foul? What was a yellow card? And what wasn't a yellow card? There was zero consistency in the game. And you could tell the players were incredibly frustrated by that because they had no idea how this official was going to react. He stopped plays when a player was injured sometimes, and other times he didn't stop the play when a player was injured. You're actually not supposed to stop the game play unless it's a head injury or he's in the immediate way. Okay. And he stopped it several times when the player's well behind the game. There's no reason to stop play. And it's the next stoppage you take care of it. But then he did that. Okay, well, if you're going to stop play, then you stop it every time. And he didn't. And so that was incredibly frustrating to see. And you can see the players, you just want consistency. And that's across all sports. You've seen this before. If you watch football, if it's pass interference on your team, you want it to be pass interference when the other team does it as well. When it's holding on your team, you want it to be holding on the other team as well. You might not agree with the call, but at minimum, you want it to be the same and level. Sure. And I felt like this official he was not. And
that's what we had talked about.
Form. Tyler Adams is captain, which he also played fantastic today. He saved them many times. He did a good job of trying to talk to the official and get him aware of Christian being bullied. But Aaron, you're right. There's a part of that Christian just has to deal with. He's going to get attacked by these players. Hopefully we get some more consistent officiating though in the next game. But that accumulation of yellow cards is a concern as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what you have in Group B. You have a England blowout over Iran 6-2, and then of course you've got the draw. Real quick, and then I know we got to move on because college football last week of the regular season also happening. Ohio State, Michigan also happening. But Group A. Just real quick initial thoughts for those maybe not following. Our very first game was Ecuador with a 2-0, although it should have been 3-0 victory over Qatar. And then early this morning, well, not super early, but at 8 a.m. Eastern time kick, the Netherlands, Senegal played them tough. Netherlands got a goal kind of in the last few minutes, a 1-0 victory. So that's where we are with Group A. Or was it 2?
2.
Oh, okay. I missed it. It was 1-0 until the very end, and then they must have.
They got a late goal when Senegal was pressing forward. The Netherlands got a really brilliant goal on a header.
I did that one.
That highlight.
That was amazing.
Just a nice goal, relatively late in the game still. And then they got a final one, I believe, in like the 89th minute, 88th, 89th minute before stoppage time. Just Senegal's going for it at that point, and at that point, you lose 2-0. It sets up a really interesting matchup, in my opinion, when Senegal plays Ecuador.
Yes.
Senegal, 2-0, you're going to like, oh, the Dutch handled them. Netherlands is going to have some struggles in finding goal scorers. So that's going to be interesting. Senegal's not an easy out, even without Mane. Ecuador, though, definitely looks more than capable of taking that second spot. But the Dutch still seem like the class of that group, for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was impressed watching Ecuador. That was, I believe, the first time a host team has ever lost the first match of a World Cup, and that happened in pretty definitive fashion on Sunday morning. All right, well, we'll certainly be tracking more World Cup stuff. We'll be talking about it a little bit more in our picks of the week. But for now, guys, we do need to turn our attention to college football. It is somehow the last week of the regular season. I can't believe it. And let's just start with the game that everyone's circling. It's a game that we tried to tell you at the beginning of the season. This will be 11-0 versus 11-0. And we were right. This may be the only college football prediction we got right the entire season, but we're taking what we got.
Everyone.
So 11-0, number 2 versus number 3. I can't imagine that's going to change on Tuesday night. The rankings, top 4 really struggled this week. Tennessee, gave up 63 in the loss. But when the dust settles, here we are.
Don't need to worry about neutral sites anymore.
Yeah, you're right. The game, it's here. Guys, your thoughts on what we're about to see on Saturday?
We're going to see 60 minutes of football.
Yeah, we are.
I cannot tell you. I mean, I'm talking to my friends talking to my roommate who is a Michigan fan. Like, he was nervous after Illinois, and I'm like, you're nervous after Illinois. I'm still a little bit shaky from Northwestern.
I know.
So, like, Maryland, I feel like we've played Maryland right before the big game a few times.
Yes.
And Maryland sometimes just has that knack of giving us more trouble than we would prefer the week out. So I do not know what to expect. In a sense, I'm glad Michigan won.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them coming in fresh off a loss. That's never good, period. I don't want them coming in angry. But man, I'm not entirely sure what I'm about to see. I might adjust. We're going to pick this for one of our picks of the week. I might lower my score by a touchdown apiece. I have no clue.
I feel the same way, and I guess maybe we can make this a college football preview for next week / picks of the week, because yes, we're obviously going to be picking this one. Obviously, the concern for both teams is injuries, and specifically at the running back position. Because Ohio State has what you thought was a really good running back pair heading into this season. And I don't know if have we had a game where both players have been on the field the entire game, maybe Notre Dame week 1, but basically one of them has been hurt. Either Mayan Williams or Travion Henderson has been hurt. It ended up being the 4th string running back, at least if you looked at the depth chart at the beginning of the season, running back 4, a freshman who really established himself well, ran the ball well against Maryland. That kind of ended up being the difference. Although Maryland kept it close the entire game, Ohio State was able to run the ball towards the end and run off the rest of the clock and still put the ball in the end zone at the end of the Maryland game. Was it comfortable? Absolutely not. But look, they're 11-0. It's the game. It's here. I think Blake Corum, his health is just critical. Obviously, Michigan's running back, a Heisman hopeful. How healthy is he? I'm going to venture that he's not healthy and may not play on Saturday. We don't know, but that's just kind of reports and based on what you saw and what you've heard. If he doesn't play, I don't know if Michigan stands a chance. If he does, I was going to sit here, right here, as an Ohio State fan and pick Michigan. I was going to do it. A fully healthy Blake Corum scares the heck out of me as a Buckeye fan. Because, I mean, he's fantastic. Michigan, and with him, could control the time of possession like they have against other teams. Like, think about Penn State. Michigan had the ball like 40 minutes that game because Blake Corum and because of the way they run their offense, and Penn State never had a chance. They ran Penn State off the field. I don't think they're going to do that to Ohio State, but now you have to let JJ McCarthy throw the ball downfield. And it's partially him to blame. It's partially the coaching staff that has not turned him loose. The best throw that JJ McCarthy made against Illinois was when he thought he had a free play He hurled it 50 yards downfield. It was a dime, a drop by the wide receiver that should have been a touchdown. So that game should have really never been in as much doubt as it was for Michigan. That was the best he looked because he finally was free. I think Michigan has been so conservative that they're not putting him in a place where he will be successful on Saturday. That's my guess. Again, all assuming Blake Corum's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I think this statement is crazy to say, but at 11-0 with both teams, I have more questions than answers still with each. And part of that is because other than Penn State, the conference is just not very good this year. These teams are not as tested as typical. That doesn't mean they're not banged up.
Yeah.
No.
Now, what do we know? So that's where I go to, where do I know? Ohio State's at home. That has been absolutely critical for top 15 matchups this year. Only 2 road teams have won that game. That's Ohio State against Penn State on the road and Tennessee against LSU on the road. That's it, though. Every other time, the home team has won that game. So that's critical. Actually, USC just beat UCLA. So mark that as well, if you count that. Because it's still in the same city. It's a little different. However, then you have the injury. Well, Donovan Edwards, the backup for Michigan, also did not play against Illinois. Now, does that mean, like Mayan Williams, I kind of put them in the same category. Is that gamesmanship? Are neither one of them going to play on Saturday? Or is that we did not play them because we need to have them next week? I don't know. Both coaches are probably messing with you, so we don't know what to believe, truly. We don't know. But Donovan Edwards, Stokes took a big hit in that game, and he was not the same afterwards. Mayan Williams, maybe he's back. Travion Henderson does not look right. No. Whether he technically can go or not, he can't hit the hole right now. I don't think he should play. Dallin Hayden had over 100 yards rushing, though.
146 and 3 touchdowns. Yep.
If you're Ohio State, that has to be thrilling to you that your fourth string running back can run the ball. Here's also what we know, though. Michigan's style of play is perfectly suited to beat Ohio State. It is born and bred with one purpose, and that is to beat the Buckeyes. It is possession gouging. It is just playing keep away. It is running it smash mouth. They have the best offensive line in the country, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Now, Schoonmaker, their tight end, that's pretty critical that he plays. He also did not play against Illinois. I expect him to probably at least give it a go. I would venture Corum gives it a go as well. Who knows if he actually is able to continue to play. The weather. Right now, there's a high chance of rain. Now, 50s, but rain. So that has a huge impact on the game. If you're the Buckeyes, you want clear skies. It's on turf. This is going to be a tight game. Aaron, everything you said about McCarthy, I echo. I was hoping in that second half, nobody ever wants to see an injury.
No.
But when that happened, in my mind, my first thought was, cool, we get to see JJ go win the game.
Yep.
And that didn't happen. And I know wide receivers drop passes on him for sure. One of his backup running backs dropped a critical pass. They dropped that touchdown pass. But he whiffed on a wide open touchdown pass. He whiffed on screen and short passes. They struggle to throw this ball accurately down the field. So this is going to be a really interesting game where on Ohio State's offense, they make you churn. I mean, Michigan's defense is going to make Ohio State's offense churn down the field like last year, make great play after great play after great play, 8, 9, 10 play scoring drives, no explosive plays. They just stay in front of you and make sure that they only give up 6 or 7 yards at worst. Michigan, though, if they can't run the ball and has to be pass focused, I don't trust J.J. McCarthy. And it's not that I don't think he's capable. You have not instilled the confidence he needs to go into Columbus and feel good about doing that.
No.
I don't think the wide receivers have the confidence because you don't give them enough opportunity to get comfortable with it. So if Michigan's defense holds up, which I would expect them to, this could end up being a much lower scoring game than most people expect.
Yes.
Michigan's defense holds up enough, but Michigan's offense, they have a very good field goal kicker. But if Corum's not there, where's creativity? Are you unleashing JJ McCarthy? You've been holding it in this long. I just have so many questions, guys. I have so many questions, so little answers. I really don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we're still going to pick it later.
Yeah. I was even surprised against Illinois. JJ McCarthy is a guy that is very capable running the ball. He even looked timid running the ball. I feel like he didn't cut it upfield several times. And look, I get it. You don't want to get blasted over the middle and get injured before the Ohio State game. Totally understand that. And before I really say anything else, too, I should mention, as a Buckeye fan, I'm super bummed that Blake Corum's not playing.
Mm-hmm.
I want
we don't know if he's playing.
Well, yeah. I'm assuming he's not going to be 100% healthy. Whatever the situation, I'm bummed. Like, is there part of me that's like, yes, we have a better chance to win? Of course. But in reality, I want best on best. I want the stable of running backs healthy for Ohio State. I want Jackson Smith and Jigba out there. I want everyone from Michigan out there. And I realize that's never going to happen. There's attrition throughout the season. I will, again, stomp my foot and say, hey, 12-team playoff is stupid because you're going to get more games where injuries happen and like Hendon Hooker tears his ACL. That's besides the point. So that being said, yeah, I agree with you that, JJ McCarthy looks very tentative. And again, I think it's 50-50, 50%. He's not playing very well. He still has not had a ton of he still hasn't had a ton of starts. He's still relatively young, even though he's been in that system for a couple years. I, again, will say 50%, I think, is on the coaching staff for not letting him loose. Now, again, though, Johnny, I completely agree. Michigan, their entire thing is beat Ohio State. To the point where I think even if they do, and they'll certainly beat Iowa again in the Big Ten championship, because if Iowa wins on Saturday, they will be the team representing the West in Indianapolis in a couple weeks. I fully expect if Michigan beats Ohio State, they'll just beat Iowa up, and then they'll go into the playoff and they'll probably lose because they're not built for the playoff. It's a delicate balance. You would argue that Ohio State is much more built for the playoff, but not necessarily built to beat Michigan. Now, certainly that's been the focus the entire offseason, the entire season. I am curious, how much has Ryan Day been saving for this game?
Yeah.
How much has he been holding back? On the other side,
I'm hoping a whole heck of a lot because he's not been.
Well,
it's like he every fourth quarter.
Is kind of my thought, because basically they said, well, we don't want him taking those hits and risk getting hurt.
Yeah.
Well, this is the game where you risk it.
Yep.
And if your top two running backs are out, maybe you pull that out a little bit and test to see if Michigan will actually think about it or not, because he's more than capable and fast enough. But Aaron, to your point, I think when Ohio State lost that game the way they did to Alabama in the national title game, COVID year, they switched from how do we beat Michigan to how do we make sure that we get back here and can beat Alabama and Clemson continuously.
Yes.
Like find ways to win that game. So it shifted into more of a high scoring profile offense with linebackers and guys who are a lot lighter who can run all over the field, rather than those big, heavy set linebackers who can pound into those gaps and stop the run.
Yeah.
Now, that's all saying Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg are fantastic. So don't hear that. But we play 4-5 DBs on a lot of plays. Who's that set up for? An Alabama team that used to have Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. So it's not exactly where Michigan is built to ball control to keep the ball away from Ohio State's offense. And so they're hoping for an exact same stylistically game as last year.
Yeah.
They would love a rainy day, because that plays right into their play style. Whether Corum's healthy or not, they're going to have to try to play that exact same way. There's no way to get out of that. But Aaron, to your point though, yeah, I wish Corum was healthy too, but the Buckeyes don't have Smith and Jigba. They probably at least don't have one of their running backs. You can go on and on and on about the injuries on both sides. So the one thing I don't want to hear from either team, no matter what happens, oh, well, so-and-so was hurt. Well, you know what? Both teams have significant injuries. And the one time I usually give you that excuse is if it's your quarterback. It's not a quarterback. Yeah. So I don't really want to hear it. good teams find a way to win despite those injuries. Sorry.
I mean, we know as Buckeye fans, we won a national championship with our third string quarterback. It happens. It's the next man up mentality. And yeah, it's our fourth string running back potentially getting the majority of the carries on Saturday. Josh, I think you were alluding to something. You said these fourth quarters, and I think you were alluding to the fact that Ohio State tends to pour it on at the end of the game, and I think that's a good point.
It's been a historically, this season, Ryan Day seems to usually, at least how I've observed in the past, however many years he's been head coach, seems to spend that first half kind of figuring out the opponent and then really laying it on second half while maintaining a pretty reasonable score in that first half. And that works the first year or two as people were still trying to figure out Ryan Day, like his coaching style. But now that they have his number, especially within the Big Ten, it's getting more and more frustrating. And there was a joke on Twitter, and I think it's hilarious. And I think it points out to, again, kind of this confidence building. Someone was like, man, it's almost as if in the fourth quarter, Ryan Day turns to the part of his playbook that's like good plays.
Yeah.
And finally pulls them out. And we can, it's funny. And, I gave it a like. But the reality is, just like you guys were saying with how Michigan has been treating its receiving team and quarterback, like I think overall too, Ryan Day might be at risk of maybe he's holding things back. Maybe he was preparing for an Alabama, or he's definitely going to try and be preparing for a Georgia and trying to keep something up his sleeve. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have, first off, if you don't have that many plays where you have to hold so many cool ones, like good ones back, or like play call more aggressive, like if you have to play call more conservatively, just like to keep everything back for whatever reason, I'm like, when you go into a big game that really matters, I don't know if you've really built up any sort of assurance from your team that they're going to be able to pull this off when the pressure happens.
Right.
We talk about,
switch. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. we talk about this. I talk about this all the time in my job currently. Part of my duties is to help essentially bedroom musicians kind of get up on stage and play in front of people. And our venue, or our chapel is not massive. I think it seats about 550 people, which is, given the fact that, the big house and Ohio Stadium both seat 100,000
I was about
plus.
to say the average attendance at a UCLA game, but
Hey, but
or Texas A&M this week.
Or Texas A&M this week. Jimbo, take your buyout. Boosters, put out a GoFundMe. Yep. Get him that money. Get him out of there. Are they bowl eligible, right? That's what they shot the cannons off for. That's what they got the confetti for. Yeah.
They can't get to bowl eligibility.
Against UMass. Come on, guys. Anyway,
they did not cover.
I'm gonna go talk to my A&M friends and just kind of make fun of them. Anyway, when I'm helping essentially bedroom musicians, which Aaron and I were at one point until we actually got thrown on a stage. Like there are so many different things you can work on, a specific fill or a specific riff, or entire songs, and in your own world, have them down. In practice, have a play down, the trick play, the TCU crazy, 11-second punt formation, however, and probably under 11 seconds, absolutely insane. And you knew they ran that thing a billion times.
Oh yeah.
But also, you have to have the confidence to, when the pressure is coming, when you go on stage. I will tell you, as someone who's had to play bass a lot more this year, there are certain things over here in my room, I can nail the fill or I can nail the groove, and I go on stage and I have to play it in the context of having a metronome in my ears, and I'm hearing everybody and I'm paying attention to everything else. I lose it almost 9 times out of 10. And I have to focus completely separately. I have to mentally almost compartmentalize it, do the fill, and then come back and interact with the rest of the bands. And I can make it happen, and it gets easier as you do it, but you have to keep doing it. You have to experiment. You have to have that in-person, that live on stage feeling in order to actually feel confident that you can do it the next time and the next time. And so again, if Ryan Day has big plays lined up, unless he's had them run these plays, a dozen times a day, every single day they've done practice, you can't guarantee what's going to happen on the field.
Yeah. No, that's a good analogy. I like that a lot. And I completely agree. Ohio State is one of the best second half teams. But it's also, and again, I know here's my Ohio State privilege coming out, right? Because this is a team that scores 40 plus points a game. And I agree with you, Josh. The play calling sometimes makes you scratch your head. And this team puts up 40 points on everybody. It doesn't matter, other than Northwestern, apparently.
Well, no, it was kind of windy.
Yeah, well, it was. Yes, it was. I agree, though. There's such a second half team that I'm like, for once, can we just come out and beat somebody bad in the first half? And I know we've done that in the past this season, but didn't do it against Notre Dame. Didn't really do it against Penn State. Didn't do it against Maryland. Didn't do it against Northwestern. That's a big concern because Michigan's a type of team that if they take the lead, a 10-point lead heading into halftime against Michigan,
you can't guarantee anything's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad.
And maybe it's the privilege of us having to watch all the football games. I'm like, man, why can't we be a South Carolina and score 63 points? Like,
right.
Like I realize
nowhere.
One off, you can't expect it. But like the SEC sometimes seems to get this, and we can joke about the SEC all we want, and we will continue to. How's it feel being unranked Alabama? But who they beat? They beat Mercer this week. Congratulations.
Austin P, I think.
What's the difference? The SEC seems to understand the value of style points when it comes to wooing the committee. And Ohio State got that in 2014. It was mean, but shutting out Wisconsin 55-0 was essentially what put us over TCU.
Correct.
Or Baylor, whatever. Well, it doesn't matter. And yeah, I don't want to be unsportsmanlike. There's never, again, especially for teams we're playing every every season rather, for the most part. You don't want to be unnecessarily unsportsmanlike. But there's almost a requirement at the level that Ohio State desires to be, where you have to be kind of laying on the points and you have to go in aggressive early and set the tone, because that's the only way, kind of back to that practice analogy, that's the only way when you get into a big game, you can at least start off aggressive and be like, okay, maybe we didn't get as many points as we normally do, but we still set our own tone. And it's easier to not get knocked off your balance. Because again, if Michigan goes out and they score 2 or 3 right in a row, which they theoretically might be able to, just given how the game might go, they're not mentally going to recover.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because it was quickly apparent that Michigan was far superior in terms of physicality last year. Mm-hmm. You're right. If that same thing happens, if it's quickly 14-0 and Michigan is pounding the ball, that defense, which somehow as a collective might be better than last year's defense, if they're giving the offensive line all kinds of problems, if Ohio State can't run the ball, you're right. We'll see how Ohio State can recover from that if that happens. I think this will be a fascinating game. We'll just move into our picks of the week because it is time for that. Of course, we are picking this game. Guys, I'm going to say Ohio State 30, Michigan 27. Noah Ruggles with 4 seconds left, 43 yards on the left hash, ball game. Ruggles, game-winning field goal. Calling it now. 30-27, same score as a 2016 double overtime game that Josh and I had the privilege of attending 6 years ago. Same score.
6 years.
And I feel like it's going to be the same kind of game where it was ugly. I never felt comfortable in that entire game.
Oh, I was not happy the entire time.
Yeah. Until the end. Also, Johnny, you were there too, right? Were you at that game?
Yep.
All right.
Oh, yeah, no, you were in the student center. Yeah, I was going to say, you were in the student section.
Yeah. I don't know how all three of us got to that one. My goodness.
My goodness. Hey, listen, for a game, I think that's the only, no, we've been to like other games, but like.
Probably.
We've only been to a few games, all three of us together, but what a game for all three of us to be together at.
Holy smokes. So that's what I'm going a little bit of nostalgia. I will repeat, this is assuming Blake Corum is not 100% healthy. If he was 100% healthy, I would pick Michigan. That's what my head is saying. My heart, of course, is saying completely opposite things, but I'm just telling you what my head is saying. But my head, with an not as healthy Blake Corum, 30-27.
Well, Aaron, you know what they say. Your thoughts and knowledge are fleeting, but your heart's always true, right?
Amen.
It's that way, not the other way around. So,
correct. Yes, absolutely. USA is going to beat England 5-0 on Friday.
Absolutely. That's just the truth. I do have the Buckeyes winning. I have now, while I had this higher scoring originally, I do have 31-26, especially if we get the rain that's potentially coming in. I mean, I'm keeping an eye out for this weather all week. It's also about the timing of the rain. It's about 50% right now. It's only Monday. So there's a good chance that shifts either into a worse time frame or a better time frame, or it doesn't rain at all, or somehow it snows instead. We really don't know on Monday. All we know is there is a chance that there is some sort of precipitation. So I'm going to keep an eye out for that. I think Ohio State's defense makes some plays. Michigan has also not turned the ball over this year. So they haven't, and they're not highly penalized. What happens? Crowd noise. That place is going to be loud. You haven't instilled confidence in J.J. McCarthy. Now you do at least have a veteran offensive line to help him out there. But what happens when you get behind the sticks? Because it will happen. What happens when you do get sacked by Sawyer or Harrison or JTT? What happens if you fumble the ball because it's not Corum running the ball? How do you react to that? I think that will be the biggest tell on how that game will go for Michigan and how they react to that. I've seen Ohio State react to that. I know what's going to happen in that sense. They don't overly panic. If anything, they typically actually go get better. And that's why I think I do actually have a small level of confidence going into the game with this Buckeye team, just feeling Stroud's been through the fire, losing that game to Oregon, losing last year, and that Utah game even. That come from behind game that you have to get. Where is that for Michigan? Because even their loss was a beatdown to Georgia, and the Michigan State game was you just couldn't stop Kenneth Walker, which now doesn't seem so bad based on what he's doing in Seattle. Yeah. So I do have the Buckeyes. I have them winning 31-26. I'm absolutely shocked and stunned if this is a multiple possession game either way with a final score. I think 5 points is justified, but that even might be a little bit much. But something weird happens, so we'll go 31-26. We always like some weird special team snafus and.
Hey, it's the game. Sometimes things happen.
It's the game. It's the game.
Yeah, I went ahead and reduced my final. I'm still taking Ohio State, but I think I reduced things by a touchdown apiece. I'm taking them 28 over 24. Again, I'm thinking under one possession. I'm going to keep it chalk because I can't do the math in my head, and I always forget how much safeties are worth. So I'm like, you know what? This is good enough. And then you know what? For England, USA, I'm taking United States because it's Black Friday, and it is frustratingly probably the most American holiday. But
yeah, you're not wrong.
But I'm hoping that some sort of patriotism makes its way over to Qatar, and the United States men's team does the essential. They do the soccer equivalent of beating someone up for a cheap TV to England. However, also. That being said, I was really close with my 1-0 pick for US over Wales. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to try it again and see if it works this time. I'll do United States 1-0 over England. We'll try it. We'll try it out.
Godspeed, Josh. I hope you're right.
I love it. I will make my U.S. England pick. I also failed to mention our current scoreboard. Josh, you talked about almost getting your pick right. Johnny did get his pick right last week. It was a 1-1 tie with the U.S. and Wales, so that means our scoreboard is myself with 48 points, Josh with 45. Johnny, you're catching up, 44. It was a rough stretch there for a couple months, and you're making some headway. Yeah, soccer's helping you out.
Yeah, soccer helps.
I'm going to between the MLS and World Cup, we're coming back.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm going to pick England 2-1. That pains me. I'm fully on board with Josh's strategy. Yes, let's Black Friday, the quintessential American holiday. Hope it helps. But I think England, just a little bit too much firepower. 2-1, the final.
Yeah. Let me let me set the stage for this game a little bit again for you non-soccer people. I'll try to do that quickly. Because it's round robin, you're only playing 3 games. That's why every game's so critical. I already kind of mentioned why this Wales-US game was so crucial. If the US can get a tie in this match, it is massive. And you're like, why? That's only 1 point. That only makes it 2. That puts the pressure on Wales to have to at least get the same result against England. And it puts England at least in play and not solidified as a team themselves. It puts the U.S. in a much better situation going into Iran, still needing to win the game, but potentially not needing to just win on goal differential and just run up the score. You don't want to be in that situation. So you'll monitor that Wales-Iran game as well, because you want to know, obviously, if Wales even wins, but if they do win, what that margin of victory is. You're hoping that's as small as possible. So this is a really, really big game for the U.S. Just getting a tie is gigantic. A loss is still not the end of the world. But at that point, we would be cheering for England to beat Wales as well. And we would potentially be in a who beats Iran by more competition for the U.S. and Wales to see who finishes second. So that's really what we're going for here. So the stakes have even raised higher in this game with the U.S. and England. I do have England winning, unfortunately. I do have a crazy game because it's Black Friday. It's going to be crazy. We're not going to have a simple game. So it's going to be 3-2. That scoring attack of England is just brutal. And I don't know if I really trust the U.S.'s defense in that style. While they played very well today for most of the time, Wales does not put a lot of pressure on you when it comes to the attack. And when you did have some push, they really did struggle in clearing their lines while still holding on to possession of the ball and not just blasting it out of the zone. So I'm going to go with England. I think the U.S., though, because of England's aggression, are able to get a couple of nice goals. This won't be as physical of a game as Wales. It'll be more of a track meet style, but I think it'll be a blast. Check it out after you do your holiday shopping. Heat up some leftovers and watch the U.S. and England.
Yeah, 2 p.m. Eastern time start on Friday. Looking forward to it. And it kind of takes us into what we're following because, look, I a lot of times I try to be kind of original and I think of something non-sports related, but guys, I can't think of anything other than sports this week. Because here's why. Going into this week, months ahead of time, I was looking at this set of games on the calendar. Thursday, my Detroit Lions, by the way, winners of 3 games in a row, and Jamison Williams is practicing. Interesting. I don't think there's anything more than that. I think they're not very good yet, but hey, look, they're trending maybe, dare I say, in the right direction towards next season. And they beat the Giants, so in case that, and I'm not even going to go there. I'm not, all the Lions fans on Twitter are like, yeah, we're coming for the wild card. We're going to pump the brakes a little bit on that. Because guess who you get to play on Thursday? Buffalo, yay. Buffalo gets their second straight game at Ford Field. That's sad. They should have just played in Buffalo. Ridiculous, but I get it. So anyways, Thursday on the calendar, my Lions play. Thanksgiving classic. You can watch the Lions lose on Thanksgiving like you do every year. Friday, of course, U.S. England. Saturday, of course, Ohio State, Michigan. But before that, starting tonight, is the Maui Invitational, which is really my favorite regular season tournament in basketball. I watch it every year, but it just so happens that Ohio State is in that tournament this year. They play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So my Monday, my Tuesday, my Wednesday, my Thursday, my Friday, my Saturday, all covered. By the way, some Tuesday action that I'm keeping an eye on. So really, I'm just following sports this week because there's so much happening. And there's 4 World Cup games a day tomorrow, Tuesday, starting at 5 a.m. Eastern time. So anyways, so my suggestion is make some coffee. And my suggestion on top of that is make some coffee and put it in our brand new 5th and Goal mug. That was dropped just today, along with some other merch. We have a cool retro tee. We've got a couple of sweatshirt options for you to choose from. We have a mug. We have a beanie. We have a hat. That was all dropped on our website. So right now, you should go to fifthandgoalsports.com/merch. It's very convenient to buy. That's kind of the point. We want you to buy it. It's way better than when we dropped merch about a year ago. It was great, but it took you to this other website so you could buy it. This is literally all on our website. You can order it free shipping on everything, which is pretty sweet. I think the designs are awesome. I'm going to be obviously buying some merch for myself because I helped make it. I hope you guys enjoy it, though. Again, fifhandgoalsports.com/merch. Go check it out. That's also what I'm following because I think it's pretty sweet. So that's available. If you need some help getting some presents for your in-laws, there you go.
Amazing. Josh, I'm going to let you go last because yours is the most interesting out of me and Aaron.
Yes, I'm still finalizing it. So you go.
Okay. Aaron's absolutely right. And you also have no excuse to miss one because you're not picking one over the other because the World Cup, the last game kicks at 2:00.
Yeah.
So you can still watch all your action.
And the Maui games don't start till like 2 p.m. Eastern time. They don't get done till 3 a.m. Eastern time. You just take your 2-hour nap at night and then you get up and it's great. It's awesome.
There's no excuse. We sleep in January, I guess. We sleep in January.
Yeah.
But what I'm following this week is college football scheduling. Yes, I'm going to be annoying and get on my soapbox once again because we had Cupcake Week in the SEC once again. Now, this is a big topic in the college football community. You'll see Joel Klatt arguing about it. You'll see everybody's arguing about it. And the first thing I need to say with it, it's not my indictment on the SEC as a conference specifically, because not everybody even did it. Georgia played Kentucky this week, and look what happened. Tennessee played South Carolina this week, and look what happened. Like, South Carolina dominated Tennessee, and Georgia really struggled more than that 16-6 score indicated. Kentucky screwed up multiple red zone possessions, and Georgia could not score touchdowns in the red zone. They were kicking field goals every time. My point is not that you can't play FCS teams. While I would prefer that you don't play them at all, if you're going to play them, they need to be your first 4 games of the season. They need to be in the first 4 weeks. Why? Because when you play an FCS school the second to last week of the regular season, when you play it in the last month, it's a pseudo bye. Why does that matter? Why is it important when you play that? Look at Alabama's schedule traditionally. They take their actual bye before LSU. Now, that's some gamesmanship and smart scheduling. It's frustrating and annoying that they get it before that, maybe their toughest opponent every single year. But fine, I'll leave that be for now. You then also get to play a team like Austin Peay before you play Auburn every year. Imagine if Ohio State and Michigan every year got to play Youngstown State. Okay. Blake Corum's healthy. Trevion Henderson's healthy. I mean, we have a ton of players who are healthier who did not have to put themselves out there in that game. I mean, just simply. So that is incredibly frustrating when, Aaron, we talked about it. Josh, we talked about it. Like, attrition is a big part of college football.
Yep.
How many games would have Alabama potentially lost before that Auburn game? Look what South Carolina just did to Tennessee. Look what Maryland did. Look what Baylor did to TCU. All of these struggling top teams because the grind of it. And that's what I always hate when I hear the argument of like, oh, well, you're just playing Illinois. All right, but that's the equivalent of you playing South Carolina.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of you playing Kentucky. This is a big deal. Attrition's a big deal. SEC plays 8 conference games. Big Ten plays 9. I think everybody should play the same number of conference games, but at a bare minimum, you need to play the FCS schools at the beginning of the season because now, while the SEC is the best conference, Alabama has been the best team for the last 2 decades, pretty much. That's not really inarguable. However, I bet Alabama has a championship or 2 less if they are playing a real SEC opponent before Auburn. I bet you they have a championship or 2 less because they lose 1 or 2 of those games out of the 6 championships Saban has there. Yeah. So that's my soapbox. I love cupcakes, but I don't want to see them on your schedule. So if we can just get rid of that, if we can get some more balanced scheduling across the board, I would be really happy because I like watching good football games. And clearly ESPN and the SEC know they're not good football games because you can't even watch them unless you have ESPN Plus. So That's the biggest indictment, truly. So unless you're Texas A&M and you're playing UMass, you shouldn't be allowed to play a tiny little school the week before your rival.
Yeah, I agree completely, Johnny, because here's what SEC fans will do. They'll say, well, the grind of an SEC schedule is just different. And here's the deal. There's two things that can be true, and both are. Number one, the SEC is the best conference in football. True. Number two, the SEC conference schedule, while more difficult than other conferences, is not so significantly more difficult that you have to compensate with that FCS second to last week. Look at the strength of schedule. It's not that significant of a difference. There's people on Twitter like, well, you have to play Alabama, Texas A&M, Florida, and they're listing all these teams like Georgia. Well, number one, no team has played all of those teams. And also, you listed Florida, who just got beat by Vanderbilt. Good for Vanderbilt, by the way. A 5-win,
back.
Yeah, 5-win team now, I think, and all they need to do is beat Tennessee, which honestly, without Hendon Hooker, maybe.
Possible.
It's crazier things have happened. All Georgia Tech needs to do to get bowl eligible is just beat the number one team in the country. Good job, Georgia Tech. Ramblin' Wreck, you guys got this week. But anyways, I'm getting us sidetracked. Johnny, you are 100% correct. Both things are true. The SEC is the best conference in football, and it's not so good that they deserve that FCS game. It's not that much better.
Not in that timing.
No.
It's a second bye.
Yep.
And it's a huge advantage to go down your stretch run with a bye the second to last.
No one wants to admit this.
Game.
Kentucky is just Iowa. They are literally the same team. They are they extended. Look, Stoops.
Don't tell NFL draft scouts that.
Oh, I will. Kentucky is literally Iowa. They are.
I hope they play.
By the way, Iowa's 7-4.
Can they play each other in a bowl game?
Oh gosh, over under 5. Yeah. Anyways, all right. That's enough of that. Josh, over to you.
Josh, have something more fun than sports.
Josh, over to your podcast.
I got. Yeah, we're not doing chess heads this week, guys.
But it's still your podcast, though, so you can intro it, even if we're not talking about chess. It's still your podcast.
Hey, guys, welcome to the game I just created.
Ooh.
Actually, though,
okay.
I am finishing up.
Oh,
so this is. Sorry, it's good. This is bad, but we know historically that it is admittedly very difficult to translate certain languages into other languages. Depending on the distance, I'm doing very boring things, but we'll get into the funny. Depending on the distance between certain cultures and certain linguistic origins, it could be difficult to translate something into another language. Historically, Mandarin and Cantonese are difficult to translate into English and vice versa. However, Google does its best. And I don't know why they try so hard as they do, but they really do. And so Google just translated, there's McDonald's in China, as we know, because there must be. Mm-hmm. And they have a unique Chinese-specific menu for their palates, and that's fine, and that's awesome. And it's in China, and the, menu items are in Chinese. Again, perfect. Google thought it'd be a great idea to try and translate all of these for us. So I have a game for us where I have 1, 2, 3. I think I just have 5. So yeah, it's an uneven number, so there can only be one winner.
Amazing.
And I'm going to describe the dish, and you're going to tell me what you think the name is.
And so the name would be just a traditional McDonald's thing you would order, right? Is that what we're going for? Sometimes.
Okay. We'll see.
Okay.
And again, this is not necessarily what they're literally named in Chinese. This is what Google has determined to read the thing.
Yeah. All right. By the way, follow along with us, you, the listener, and tweet us out how you did at Fifth Goal Sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the first one, just to kind of get a baseline for what you might expect.
Yep.
We call it the Big Mac. They have a specific word for it. What do you think they're calling the Big Mac? What do you think Google Translate thinks the Big Mac is?
In Chinese?
Yeah, simplified Chinese technically.
So basically,
at least that's what Google says.
Basically, you're translating it twice, you translate it to Chinese and then back to English. Essentially, is what what we're doing.
This one is what it's essentially going to be. Then everything else is going to be a unique thing to the Chinese menu.
Okay, interesting. Big Mac basically translated twice. I'm gonna say.
No, I will tell you. There's a unique word that that at least Mandarin has for this specific menu item that also is like it's used in other semblances as well, or used in other contexts as well.
My thought was that Mac gets translated like as a person's name.
Oh,
so it's like
yeah.
Mac's fat or something, but like possessive of his fat.
That you know what? That's actually really
something like that. I don't know.
You're on like the right track.
Okay, that's good.
Johnny, you want to throw out a quick guess real quick?
No, I don't have a
It's
prayer.
literally translated, and the Wikipedia article is here to back it up.
Okay.
It's literally translated something close to incomparable monstrosity.
That's so much better.
Oh my god.
More or less. It's fantastic. All right, so that's just this is what you can expect from such.
Okay, so I really got to get my thesaurus out for this.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the first one. This is a sandwich. It's 2 beef patties, no cheese. So just 2 beef patties. On top of those 2 beef patties, looks like 2 hot dogs.
Oh.
And on top of those 2 hot dogs, a little bit of mustard, and it looks like it's on a pretzel bun.
Wow.
What would you name that?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just 2 patties.
I would name it. Is it a sandwich?
Ooh, I like that.
Ooh,
sandwich or a sub?
Ooh, Johnny with the hard hitting questions. I'd call it some kind of like pretzel double decker, but which maybe that's translated.
Aaron, I'll give you that. I will give you that. Aaron, congratulations, you won. It is the Unsuspecting Tyrant's double decker beef fort.
Oh, nice.
The Unsuspecting Tyrant.
Double decker beef fort. Yeah.
All right, nice. I'm proud of myself. I got double decker. All right.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. No cheese. It looks like mustard on top. I could not guarantee you to you, but it looks like mustard. It's yellow and it's a sauce. The next sandwich looks like it's a sausage patty of some sort. It's like maybe a sausage.
Okay.
Lettuce on a toasted English muffin.
Okay, so
and that's it.
Colonialism.
I was gonna say somehow we got breakfast and lunch. Like what time does breakfast end at McDonald's?
They're back to their normal thing, so I think it's 10:38.
Okay, so this is the 10:31 sandwich.
The 10:31 sandwich. Yeah. Ooh, that's good. You're calling it colonialism? It's Google translates it as full marks for grilled ham.
Oh wow, I'm giving Johnny that one for sure.
Full marks for grilled ham. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, you guys are tied up.
All right.
Next one. This is we would call this, I don't even know what McDonald's calls this, the big breakfast, maybe. It's just scrambled eggs, an English muffin, a sausage patty, and a hash brown. Looks very normal, looks very American.
That's literally what I made Sunday for brunch when I had some people over to watch the World Cup game. So I'm familiar
TBH
with how this is.
Sounds fantastic right now.
Yeah.
I'd name it Truck Stop.
Truck Stop? Ooh.
Dang, that's strong.
That's good.
I'm going to say, oh gosh, how am I supposed to compete with that? I'm just gonna say, Johnny, you can have that one. That's good.
I checked this one too to make sure. The other ones, I'm having difficulty going through the Chinese McDonald's menu myself, so I'm kind of going on some screenshots. But it is called "Enjoy a Full Morning Meal," which just sounds so friendly.
Oh,
sounds like what they would name it in Canada.
Yeah. Very polite. So maybe it is. I don't see any Canadian bacon on this, but and then finally, just an egg, just a fried egg.
Oh, okay.
That's all it is.
Something about how it's like lonely.
Oh,
it's
lonely egg,
lonely little egg.
It's just a fried egg. Wait, they sell just a fried egg at McDonald's in China?
Yep, just a fried egg.
One fried egg. Just an egg. Huevos. I know that's
Why did that same thing popped into my mind too? I don't know why. Why did that thought cross both of our minds? All right, hit us with it, Josh. What do we got?
It's called an energy egg.
Aww.
And it's so cute.
That is
it's
really
just an
cute.
energy egg.
Nice. Was that the last one?
Yeah, that's it. I have a bunch of them, but it's taking me forever to translate through them. So,
nice.
Let's see here. I'm just going to check and see, what are these sausages called? What do we call these sausages?
I'm hungry. I haven't had supper yet.
Oh, German sausages. That's very
Same.
nice.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm very hungry.
You're making me hungry, Josh. And not for the right things. There's a McDonald's on the way home.
Yeah.
Dang it.
You can get well, not now, but if you wait, you can. I did check. Yep, you can just get an energy egg.
Just
an energy egg.
Wow.
I don't think I can get an energy egg here at 9 o'clock. But
Oh, you can get an energy egg somewhere.
I
Different kind of energy, but you can find it. I'm sure it's got to be. We're in Ohio. Hate to, Anyways. All right. Well, speaking of hunger, kind of. Johnny and I are not able to eat supper because we're about to record our Football Monday show, but that's exciting. It is rivalry week. We spent the entire, basically, episode just talking Ohio State, Michigan. If you want to hear our thoughts on games like USC, Notre Dame, Clemson, South Carolina, there's a bunch of other games happening. Of course, the Iron Bowl, for what that's worth, Auburn, bad, but you never know. Rivalries, you throw the records out. If you want that is available on YouTube and hopefully our website. If future editing Aaron has that up on the website ready to go, but you can find that show. It's if you're watching the YouTube live stream, it's literally right after this. So there's a shout out for Football Monday. Josh, you got one more for the road?
I have one more for the road. Go for it, Johnny. Go for it.
No. Go ahead and ask your question. Mine was just a little.
I believe, and again, because I'm translating them myself, it's hard to tell. But this looks like a McChicken. It looks exactly like a McChicken.
Okay.
Google Translate. What do you want to think that Google Translate makes it?
Warfare.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's not the McChicken. It's not the McChicken. I think it's this one. I think it's our fillet of fish.
Oh, well, that's different. What's the Chinese word for Catholic?
I don't.
Wow.
Well, Johnny, I'll give you half of that.
What?
Maybe because it's macaroni. So it's like they called it macaroni. Literally, it's a fillet of fish sandwich. It is exactly what you would think it is. It looks exactly like ours, and they're calling it macaroni.
I love that.
So Italian, Catholic, I'll give it to you.
Wow.
Wow.
All right, Johnny, you're the big winner here. That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess so. All I was going to say, Josh, thank you. That was fun. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Yes.
There's sports not only every day, but every single hour. There is something to be watched, and there's also something to be consumed because there will be food all week. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Please don't do what we, I guess, hope the national team hypothetically does to England on Friday. Don't actually punch somebody trying to get a cheap TV that will break a month after you start using it. Please don't do that. Enjoy your Black Friday, though. People watching is fun. Enjoy the Buckeye game. Make some Buckeyes, make some cookies, have all of those Thanksgiving leftovers, whatever your tradition is for rivalry week. If you're a fan of another team, I hope you have a wonderful week. This is one of the best weeks of the whole year. We need more Thanksgiving songs to celebrate it properly, but this is a fantastic week. It's my favorite week. I hope you guys all really enjoy it because I will, unless the last day of the week ends poorly. But we won't talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, if we don't show up at all next week, you know why. All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. I echo everything Johnny said. Have a great Thanksgiving week. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
And we are downloading. We are working on it.
Yeah, my Mac's going to take a hot sec to download probably.
Aaron, I did put some quick betting lines too.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
My advice for rivalry week is as few as possible.
Yeah, don't do it.
It's rivalry week.
Yeah.
And Tennessee Vandy would have been one of the ones you would pick. Now I'd argue it's a good pick the other way, probably. Tennessee's still a 14-point favorite. If you could have gotten in on that, given I think everybody probably thought that Hendon Hooker was seriously injured. But if you could have gotten in on that before that was official, you might have gotten a little bit better odds as well.
Yep. Yeah. So for the YouTube audience, if you're watching the replay, hello. Thank you for doing that.
Hey.
Johnny is, if you missed it at the beginning, Johnny is literally the room right over here. So we're going to move to right over here, but it's going to take us a couple minutes to get set up. So at some point, I will throw you guys on just an intermission screen while we set some things up, and I'll play some nice fancy music for you guys in the background. But if you're watching on replay, the benefit is you can just fast forward to when we're recording our show. So that's coming up here in just a couple minutes. Just want to give you guys a heads up on that, or for anyone that's joining live. That's what we're up to.
While we wait, Josh, what is your favorite tradition for Ohio for the game week?
Yeah, I'll let you guys talk this. I'm gonna start getting this set up.
Oh man,
what's your favorite tradition?
I really like just the commitment, and it's because I don't know if I have seen, and maybe they do have something. If there's any Michigan alum or fans on the stream, let us know. I just don't know if there's a commitment to the bit quite like taping over every M on campus. And like, that's probably my favorite. I know that's probably a common one, but my goodness, it is such a commitment to the bits, and like, it makes things so special. I love that that every social media post, every like press release across most of the campus too, outside of sports, is pretty much no M's.
Yeah. No, I agree. My favorite is probably just more personal. I do love that. Because I will literally get red tape and a red Sharpie and do that in my own household. Because I'm, again, crazy person. However, yeah, be careful with those like home signs. Those are about to get X'd out, everybody.
Yes.
If you live in my neighborhood. Now, my favorite thing personally, though, is my mom always makes homemade Buckeyes that week. And whether you are an Ohio State fan or not, there's nothing better than a little peanut butter and chocolate. And that is a nice, like, after party to Thanksgiving. You know, you got Thanksgiving, all that wonderful food on Thursday. You get the leftovers on Friday. And then you get, like, fried chicken, wings, pizza type of stuff on Saturday with some cold frozen, because you want them cold. You want those Buckeyes cold. You want to put those in the fridge after you make them with the peanut butter and the chocolate around it. But there are a few things in this world better than peanut butter and chocolate combined. It's one of the things that proves to me that there is a God in this world. But that is easily my favorite.
I'm just translating through like the lunch menu right now. It's so good. They have this, and again, this is not me making fun of how China names things. It's how Google thinks. It's China, Google's confidence. It's Google's confidence. So they have what looks like maybe just a McChicken, like it looks like a chicken patty, like a McChicken patty, or like maybe the same thing, but maybe like a pork patty. Same concept. They're calling it such a big chicken chop.
Such a big chicken chop.
And it's so cute. They have like, looks like their equivalent of like a KFC bucket meal. So it looks like, you know, like maybe
right now.
It looks, yes, because it looks exact. It's got some, but it's like the McDonald's version. So it's got nuggets. It's got, looks like maybe some mini wings, and then like maybe like a quarter chicken. And it's called the Popular Forts Barrel.
What?
Popular Forts Barrel.
Fort Barrel.
Forts Barrel. And
why
then that one's pretty standard. Forts.
I
have no clue where they're.
Does it come in a barrel?
No, it looks like it comes in a bucket, but they would call it barrel. But I'm thinking barrels how they're as.
Yeah, maybe they don't have a separate bucket and barrel. Maybe it's just like.
Or maybe they do. Yeah, and Google's not quite reading it, but
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, I don't know where Google's getting forts.
But what fort?
I love it. Yeah, I have no clue.
Somehow chicken is fort. Like
right.
They should say farm barrel. Farm barrel would make sense to me.
Hey, oh man, I would mess up farm barrel right now.
Ooh. Farm barrel would hit.
I know. I'm about to go make some red beans and rice after this.
I'm about to go
starving.
Buy a farm barrel. That's what I'm gonna do. I don't
Fried
even know
like
what's in
burger,
it.
That's fine. Oh, a good
But it
morning
sounds
nutrition
good.
roll.
What is that? A
They
biscuit?
call their breakfast. Google calls their breakfast burrito. So it looks like it's a hash
love
brown,
a
a sausage
good
patty, and some
breakfast burrito.
scrambled eggs. Oh my
Oh.
gosh, I'd mess that one up right now. Looks great. Google wants to call it the Good Morning Nutrition Roll.
I need one of those for 5 a.m. tomorrow morning when I'm watching Argentina, Saudi Arabia playing soccer.
Oh,
Is there
that'll be
something
so much
wrong
fun.
with me that I'm waking up for what should be like basically the equivalent of the England game today? Yes. Yes, there is absolutely something wrong with me.
There's absolutely, but we won't judge you.
So enjoy it? Yes. 100%. Because Saudi Arabia is worse than Iran.
See,
Iran shouldn't have been that bad.
the problem is that
Saudi Arabia might be the worst team.
excuse me, I had to work, so I had two World Cup games to catch up on. Then I'm trying to get through the whole Maui Invitational, which that's not going to happen. But I'm going to try, and then 5 a.m. soccer. So that's, tis
5
the
a.m.
week.
soccer.
Yeah, I love it. Can't wait. All right, I think we're mostly set up over here. So
Okay.
Beautiful.
Sounds good. Aaron, am I bringing the laptop or am I just shutting
no,
it
you're
down?
good. You just bring yourself and your phone,
Okay,
probably.
sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Josh, I'll
All
talk
right.
to you before the game, but
Yes, sir.
Sounds good.
By the way, happy
Sounds
birthday.
good.
We should have said it on the podcast. Happy birthday,
Thank you.
Josh.
we
Oh, you're
didn't say
fine.
it on the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
It's all right. Have a good recording
All right, thanks, Josh.
Later.
Appreciate it,
or
man.
streaming.
Yeah.
See ya.
Hello, YouTube. How loud are we?
YouTube. What's up?
I feel like we're kind of quiet still. Let's see here. This mic's not really meant to pick up this like we're trying to do it, but I also don't want to blast their ears out.
Blast the ears out.
Yeah.
Really fine.
I actually think this is okay right here. We might just have to speak kind of loud-ish.
I'm pretty good at that.
I actually don't need to speak that loud.
I do have the volume all the way up, but it's fine.
Alright. Let's get this camera rolling. Make sure it's not like aimed like directly at your crotch. I think it's okay.
Should I just sit?
Yes. There it is.
All right. I just took a picture of my pick, so I got that too.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
Football rivalry week.
Yes, sir.
everybody.
Hello, YouTube. It's kind of like right. You know, let's do one of these.
That's
okay.
Lean forward.
Yeah.
I got the ball.
That's right. All right. I think this is okay. Oh, you know what? The one thing I need to switch is I can't really see chat at all. Not that I'd be able to read it from here. Let me just switch it over here.
Well, I should have asked if anybody had World Cup questions. Tweet at me or at the.
Yeah, we can always do it. We can always throw it on Instagram after this.
Yeah. I've had people text me throughout the day.
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I just need to pull up the. Oh.
Not that I know everything. Sometimes a coach does something and I'm like, I don't know what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Greg Berhalter. Why was Morris sent in instead of Reyna? I don't know. Don't have an answer for you.
Yeah, I think everyone's asking that question right now.
Well, based on Berhalter's answer, it was partially they're like worried about his health, but he said partially, which means he also believed in Morris. And Morris is a great player. He's also an MLS player.
Yeah.
So, sorry, like an old MLS player.
Mm. That's all Garrett Bale is right now, right? He just comes out when he needs it. LAFC, I'm sure, appreciates that. So, let me pull up this one more time just make sure we're good audio-wise.
Strike at any moment. They were right on the broadcast. Every time they said it, they were right.
Yeah, they were.
That's how Wales is. You'll outpossess them 70% to 30%, and it won't matter because they're just waiting for their opportunity. So, good luck.
Yep. Oh, I forgot to turn off the music. I'm glad I turned this on. That would have been awkward.
It's part of the fun, though. I mean, you have different styles in the World Cup. It's just like any other sport. Not everybody plays the exact same way, so you have different people trying to win in different ways. Wales is very self-aware of who they are. Great defense, have to win on a counterattack, draw penalties in the box, win games 1-0, 2-1 max. That's just who the Welsh are. And honestly, in any other World Cup, any other group, I would be cheering on Wales. They're one of my favorite teams. Yeah. They have maybe the best flag.
Oh, for sure.
So if you're picking like you would like the NCAA tournament, you pick like via mascots. Maybe you pick countries via flag, and in which case I think Wales is your champion.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let me see if I can actually split screen this.
But hit us up. You have any questions for college football, even World Cup? Throw them in the questions. We might not answer them during this, but I'll get them. Get them to you. I'll get them to you. Tweet at 5th and Goal or at me personally, or even at Aaron. Let us know. Send us a DM even if you'd like. But
do it.
We'd love to have any of those tweets, and we can talk about it because I'm sure a lot of other people are asking the same question, and there is no shame in not understanding something. And if it's the first time that you've, like Josh, that you've really watched a U.S. men's national team game all the way through, welcome. We'd love to have you. So great that you're watching, even if you only really watch for the World Cup.
Yeah, and of course that also applies if you're watching on replay. The World Cup's probably still happening. So we're like, I don't know, into the second week of December I think it goes. So it'll be here a while, which is exciting. All right, Football Monday, welcome. This is a little unorthodox, but Johnny's laptop decided it was done. So we recorded our podcast with him over here, but I'm like, why don't we try to jerry-rig a setup so where we can just both sit on this nice blue couch back here and talk football. So that's what we're doing. Hopefully it's not like too crazy jank. I think we set it up okay. So let us know if the audio is like super messed up for you, but I think we hopefully got it right. There's a mic like all the way over here. This phone is balancing on a step stool. It is as jank as possible. If I remember, I'll post a picture on our Instagram of like our setup right now. It's pretty great. But we're talking rivalry week, and we'll just make this pick kind of quick because we talked at length during the podcast. Ohio State, Michigan, the game. I've got Ohio State in a close game only because I don't think Blake Corum will be healthy. And I think that's going to be the difference. Ohio State at home with a big grudge from last year. I think Ohio State wins this game.
I think crowd noise. I think Columbus, Ohio State being at home is a huge story in this game. Weather will be a story, but seeing right now, assuming that the weather's not crazy at least, I do think the Buckeyes pull it out in Columbus. Can J.J. McCarthy, especially without Blake Corum potentially, can he weather the storm? Crowd noise, the moment where he hasn't been put in a lot of situations to go win games by throwing the ball. I know they just had that close game against Illinois, but he didn't really win the game that way with his arm. That will be necessary in this one against the Buckeyes. And also scrambling, but scrambling north and south instead of east-west. I do have the Buckeyes winning for that reason. Slight winner. It should be a classic game.
Yeah, I agree. Should be good. I've got a 3-point win. I think it's going to be a game-winning field goal for Ohio State. We'll see how that goes. All right, Clemson, 10-1. Obviously, South Carolina looked great. There were some other teams that had great games. TCU survived. The team that had the best day, other than USC, might have been Clemson, because they're sitting there watching all these teams above them just not have great days, including Tennessee losing. So they are 10-1. hosting South Carolina, who scored 63 against Tennessee. No one saw that coming.
They showed nothing the entire season to show that was remotely possible. They just got beaten up by Florida and the game before, but this is why we love college football, because if we could predict everything properly, then it would be no fun. Yeah. So Spencer Rattler looked like a first-round draft pick. Don't let that one game talk you into it. No, that's too far. Yep. Good game, though, Spencer. You played very well.
It gives you, if you're an Oklahoma fan, how do you feel about that? Because do you feel like that's the guy we thought he could do this, or you're like, now of course he's doing, I don't know. Either way, Oklahoma won against Oklahoma State, but we're talking this game, Clemson's going to win at home. I think it could be close, but we talked to our good friend Logan, who's been on this show, is a big South Carolina fan. He brought up the good point that this would be peak South Carolina to do what they did against Tennessee and then get beat 30-0 or whatever that score of the game was last year. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be close, but Clemson's winning at home with a potential playoff spot on the line.
See, I think South Carolina was confused last week because of Tennessee's helmet. in the Clemson orange. Yeah. If you didn't watch the game, they were wearing an alternate orange helmet that looked very Clemson-y on the broadcast.
There's no chance Tennessee ever wears that again, right?
No, not a chance. Not if the game goes that way. I think South Carolina was a little confused and thought that it was the end of the season and they're getting to spoil Clemson's season. So clearly, based on that game, South Carolina is capable of beating Clemson, so it makes the game far more intriguing than what we would have thought it was a week ago. But I don't think you're going to get back-to-back performances like that. And a big part of that game, now the spread shows that South Carolina probably wins that game no matter what, but a big part of that was also the home crowd there at Williams-Brice. So it's on the road. Clemson does not lose at home, so I have to go with the Tigers in this one, even though, man, I'd love to see South Carolina just be a playoff killer. It would be fun.
Them and Notre Dame, your top two playoff killers. I believe Clemson has the nation's longest home win streak. They just don't lose at home. Think of all the troubles they've had of the last 4 years, and I use that in quotations because 4 losses in the last 2 years. They're not going to lose this game. I really don't think so. Again, would love to see it, but don't think they do. All right, we're turning to the Sun Belt, where Coastal Carolina at 9-1 heads to James Madison 7-3. Now remember, hashtag free James Madison, who is not currently eligible for a bowl game, even though they're 7-3. But they face a good Coastal Carolina team. I like Coastal here. Looks like Coastal has a really good chance of repeating in the Sun Belt, or at least, doing some damage. Any New Year's Six consideration for Coastal? Probably not.
Them not being ranked really is really rough. And if you're not familiar with the rule, you do have to be ranked in the top 14 for that automatic qualifier to occur. So if there is not a group of 5 team ranked in the top 14, the committee is not required to take one of them into that New Year's Six consideration. I think it's likely we probably see that this year. And Coastal not being ranked already is a big hindrance there. So unfortunately for them. Now, no Grayson McCall, I think, still. But their backup quarterbacks plural, they've used 2 different ones, have played quite well. James Madison's kind of an erratic team. Just coming from FCS to FBS, your scholarship numbers and attrition affect you far more deeply than a typical college football team. So I will still go with the Chanticleers because they are playing for a lot here.
Yeah, love that team. They're not playing on their teal turf, but they do have a teal turf, so whatever. Western Kentucky goes to Florida Atlantic. Western Kentucky gave Auburn last week. Is that what they played?
Yep.
Yeah, they gave Auburn all they could handle. This is a team that, if you remember, Bailey Zappi last year threw for a bazillion touchdowns. They added a Division II transfer who's doing not quite the same, but doing his best Bailey Zappi impression. They're good. Not a good defense, but I do like the Hilltoppers to beat the Owls.
Hilltoppers in Big Red. I hope they're wearing those alternate helmets again. Those were fantastic.
Best helmets of the year.
If you didn't see them, they probably won the year on best helmets. Kansas State and Tulane give them a run, but we got some good helmets there. Western Kentucky's going to win that game. I don't think Florida Atlantic's able to keep up, so we'll go Hilltoppers.
Yeah, I like that. All right, heading back to the big boys, if you will. The Pac-12, Civil War, Oregon State. Oregon hangs on against Utah, but now they travel to Oregon State. If they win against Oregon State, really good chance to play USC in the Pac-12 championship. My rule for picking has been pick the home team because, like we've talked about, the home team's winning most of these games. I'm picking the Ducks. But this may be a game like I did last week where I picked Oklahoma State and then Saturday morning I'm like, nope. And I switched to Oklahoma and that worked for me. I may do the same here.
Yeah.
Because Oregon State's good.
What is the scenario if Oregon State beats Oregon?
I have no idea.
Because Washington beat Oregon.
Right.
And I believe they would have the same conference record.
Yeah.
But where's UCLA in all of that?
Right.
And then also, is Oregon State back into the picture?
I have no idea.
I don't think so. But so things get crazy if the Beavers beat them. Also, underrated rivalry trophy, a platypus.
Yes.
Oregon Ducks, Oregon State Beavers,
Fantastic.
platypus.
Yep.
Well done, people of Oregon. I will go with the Ducks. This might be my lowest confidence pick.
That's true.
Oregon State, they're off the radar. Nobody's paid attention. They're one of those teams, along with Washington State, that have shown the depth and quality of the Pac-12 this year. You know, you're talking about really mostly this year UCLA and USC and Oregon and Utah and now even Washington. Oregon State and Washington State are also great. So you're talking about 7 of your 12 teams are really good, solid teams. Oregon State's only losses are to those ranked opponents.
Yeah.
They just haven't been able to get one. Maybe it's against their rival and they're able to help ruin their season. So I will go with the Ducks on this one, though. Oregon State's very defensive-minded. Oregon is the exact opposite. Oregon State's quarterback is very turnover-prone, though, and that could be the difference where Oregon's defense has at least been able to make plays and get those turnovers. So that could be the difference in the game is Oregon State's quarterback play, really.
Yeah, I mentioned the Pac-12 championship potentially on the line. Rose Bowl bid somewhere. Like if USC runs the table and ends up in the playoff, then that becomes wide open. That's a very interesting conversation. Could be the same with the Big Ten, although I think Michigan and Penn State, one of those 2 teams, or Ohio State, one of those 3 teams will be in the Rose Bowl, you would think. All right, speaking of the Big Ten and great rivalry trophies, Minnesota heads to Wisconsin. I haven't the faintest clue of what's going to happen in this game, so I'm picking Wisconsin because they are at home. I know that's a lame answer, but I don't know what else to do for the Axe.
Nebraska it again last week. Had Wisconsin on the
did.
ropes. The game was over. They lose to Wisconsin 15-14. But the Nebraska curse is alive and well. It nearly even got Michigan last week because they beat Nebraska right before they played Illinois. The Nebraska hex is alive and well.
Yeah,
I'm going with the Gophers to keep the Axe. Is that true?
I believe so.
I believe they beat Wisconsin last year. So
yeah.
I think they actually keep the Axe, which is a rarity for them to win at all, but the back-to-back years is significant. So
yeah.
I think Mo Ibrahim is the best player on the field. This might be a quick game.
Yeah, it might be. Over-under on his carries this week.
Let's see. I think he carried it 36 times last week. If you watch that game, Minnesota defeated Iowa in every single category, and Iowa won the game.
Yeah.
Turnovers, man. And Iowa's defense scores points. Kirk Ferentz is inevitable.
He is.
He's inevitable. So
I mean, Iowa
32 is probably what I'd say for Mo Ibrahim.
That's fair. Iowa, you talked about 7-4. We'll ignore the Iowa State game. Their other losses are to Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, who are all, I think, maybe on Tuesday, all top 10 teams. Like, as ugly as it is, and as much as they deserve to get made fun of, they somehow find a way to do this. They'll be 8-4. They'll be in the Big Ten championship in Indianapolis. They'll probably get beat by 30 again, but dang it, they'll be there. It's so frustrating.
It'll be an ugly first half.
Yeah.
They'll make the first half ugly.
Yeah.
But as a Buckeye fan, hypothetically, Ohio State is the team there. I would still take Iowa rather than Purdue because playing Purdue with that silly little number 2 next to your name is a death sentence.
Yeah.
So I will take Iowa instead.
Yeah, no spoiler makers, please. All right, Wake Forest and Duke. Duke is 7-4. They're hosting this game. I like Wake Forest because of quarterback play. But good for Duke. This is an awesome story. I think first-year head coach.
Mike Elko, Texas A&M's defensive coordinator from the year before.
So killing it. Good for Duke, but I think Wake Forest wins this.
Mike Elko got out at the right time, apparently. So he's been fantastic. Never expected that coming from Duke this year.
Yeah.
You had that great game when they even played Kansas. Turns out both those teams are going bowling. I do have Wake Forest. They've kind of struggled down the stretch a little bit, but they got a lot of pride. It's Sam Hartman's final game. It is on the road, of course, but it's a final regular season game. They want to send him out well.
Could literally be his last game if, depending on, you never know with bowl games.
Yeah, you never know with bowl games. I would expect him to play the bowl game, but still, I'm gonna pick Wake. I think again, I'm gonna pick the best player on the field type of a game. Given again, I'm picking a road team, so we'll see how that works. Yeah. But it's rivalry games, weird things happen.
All right. Notre Dame, USC. USC plays a game that had absolutely no defense, to the point where I was almost irritated there was not any defense in that game, because my thought was...
Of course, it ended on a pick.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. I was tweeting out, there's no defense, and then there was a sack that forced fourth down, and then 2 minutes later that was that pick. But it was one of those things that you had such good quarterback play that one of these defenses was spoiling it for their quarterback. It ended up kind of being UCLA. I know Dorian Thompson-Robinson had 3 picks in that game, but what a tough as nails. But USC gets a badly needed win at home that really keeps the Pac-12 alive. Their next test is against Notre Dame, non-conference finale. Then they play in the Pac-12 championship. So we still have 2 really important games for USC if they want to make the playoff, but they have the chance because Notre Dame has improved. I like USC at home.
With Tennessee losing, the biggest winner is probably USC.
Yeah.
Assuming USC does beat Notre Dame and they beat, hypothetically, Oregon, they're in over a Big Ten loser in Michigan or Ohio State.
Yes.
They're in over Clemson. That might be a talking point, but they're in. The only situation where that gets a little hairy is with an LSU beating Georgia. But we'll just keep it simple for the time being. USC's chances are great, and they're pretty darn close to controlling their own destiny. I wouldn't quite go that far. Caleb Williams, to me, is the reason why I just can't quite pick Notre Dame. I want to pick Notre Dame desperately. It's in LA, which is a huge piece of this game.
Yes.
Notre Dame's more than capable of winning this game. This will be a nail biter. This is a game-winning field goal type of game to me. This is if your USC just survive the game. Notre Dame's more talented. They are actually a better team. But it's a Bryce Young, it's a Caleb Williams type of thing where, they cover up so many blemishes for a team. And you saw that if you watched that battle for LA. So I have to go with Caleb Williams and USC as much as I really like Notre Dame this season and actually think that they have a great chance to win. And they do play a style of ball that is very much capable of winning that game with ball control, running it.
Yeah.
Can USC get off the field on defense? Can they create enough turnovers? That was why they beat UCLA. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 2 picks, I believe. The turnovers are the reason SC's defense is able to just do enough. Can that continue?
And should be, without question, I think the most difficult defense USC has played. And maybe it's not close. I know Utah's had their ups and downs, but that defense isn't quite like it was last year with some key personnel out. So I could see myself changing this pick. I think I'm sticking with USC for now. Again,
I could too.
If this is on the road, I'm picking Notre Dame in a heartbeat, but it's not.
On paper, I pick Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. You can't define Caleb Williams' playmaking on paper.
Yeah. And at some point, I think the Travis Dye injury will catch up with USC, but maybe it doesn't catch up with them until the playoff. We'll see. All right, 2 picks left. Air Force, I say 2 picks. We can talk about a couple other rivalry games or just important games in terms of conference races. But as far as our picks, last week of our Mayo Ice Cream Challenge, there's a bit of controversy because right now I'm up by 1 point. But
are there not picks next week?
You know what? Maybe there is.
I think there's championship.
All right, well, maybe there's championship picks.
Yeah.
Just for the folks at home. The drama is that I'm up by 1. But ESPN did not save my picks 1 week, so I should have 30 extra points. So if we get into a scenario where I lose by 2, we can have this debate about who's the real winner is. Anyways, for now I'm up by 1. I'm hoping to keep it that way. San Diego State hosts Air Force, and San Diego State 7-4, Air Force 8-3. As far as the Mountain West, both teams with good records. The Mountain West Championship is actually already claimed. Boise State from the Mountain, Fresno State from the West, but still an intriguing matchup. I'm going to pick San Diego State. Air Force does a fantastic job of running the ball. What was the Service Academy stat last week?
They only attempted 4 passes between Navy, Army, and Air Force. Didn't complete any of them. And I believe ran for 946 yards
That's incredible.
Combined, and they all won.
The problem is with that actually kind of plays into San Diego State's play style a little bit. So that's why I've got the Aztecs at home with Brady Hoke. Another solid season for the Aztecs.
Who's home in that game?
San Diego State. Yeah.
Aztecs win.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. All right, Washington State, the Apple Cup. Washington State is at home, which I had to remember because remember last year it was Washington State fans that stormed Washington's home stadium. This game is in Pullman, Washington State. Washington State 7-4. I think Washington finds a way to win. I know it's a rivalry game. I know you throw out the records, but Washington has something to play for outside of just the rivalry. They've got a chance to play spoiler in the Pac-12. I'm going to take the Huskies. I really like Michael Penix. Washington State's just been a little too inconsistent for me. I actually have a buddy that's kind of knows a lot about that program. He said there's been kind of a rivalry internally between Washington State's offense and defense. That's not usually a good thing. So I'm taking Washington.
Yeah, I'm going with Washington for what you said. The conference title game is still in play, which means the Rose Bowl is still in play.
Yep.
And if they win and don't make it, a New Year's Six is still in play. Washington could be one of those winners with the Group of 5 team not being really eligible.
Yeah.
And with chaos in front of them, which will happen, they even have a small chance, but a chance to climb into the top 10. And if Washington's in the top 10, they'll be in one of those New Year's Six games. So it's a critical game.
Yeah.
This is another weather game, though. It's Pullman, Washington. We've seen this game before end up being a blizzard.
Yeah.
That would severely play into the Cougars' strengths, whereas the Huskies really like throwing that ball over the yard with Michael Penix. So if this is a snow bowl, I might change that pick. But assuming that does not happen, I will go with Washington. But Pacific Northwest is interesting again this week with Oregon State and Washington State both being at home with opportunities to spoil, be big spoilers, and both of them being good teams that have a real chance to do it.
Yeah. So let me real quickly, I'll just some highlight some other games that aren't in this week's pick, but might have implications or do have implications on the conference championship game. Tuesday, MACtion. Tomorrow, we've got Ohio Bowling Green. That's a winner-take-all for the MAC East. They will play Toledo. It is a semifinal in the MAC. I believe, even though he went out with injury last Tuesday, Curtis Rourke might play for Ohio, which is huge. So I'm going to say Bobcats win, I guess. Toledo, Ohio, MAC championship might be kind of fun. Two of the best offenses in that conference. But let's go Thursday. Thursday we have the Egg Bowl between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. And boy, and this is, excuse the pun already, Mississippi really laid an egg on Saturday, against Arkansas. That was brutal.
Proved our thoughts about them really throughout the whole year.
Yeah, but they're at home. Do you like Ole Miss or Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl on Thursday, Thanksgiving? So once you get done watching the Lions lose,
it's going to be a weird game.
It always is.
It's always a weird game.
Yeah.
I think I'm actually going to say the Bulldogs pulled this out with Will Rogers. It's passing attack, pass air raid with Mississippi State. It's run heavy with Judkins and Ole Miss. They're fantastic at running that ball, even though they lost to Arkansas.
It's 700 yards and a loss.
He still had a fantastic game. Yeah. Now, can Ole Miss recover from that quickly, though? Because they let Alabama beat them twice by losing to Arkansas in that game after nearly beating Alabama. So, again, Ole Miss, they blew it. They're no longer in play for a New Year's Six game where they had, honestly, a really solid chance before that with only, 2 losses. So, now you're in the spot where you are, where your best looking game is probably the Citrus Bowl. That's probably the best possibility that you could draw, and that's not even a guarantee. So, can you get up? It's at least a rivalry game. This will be a wacky game, but maybe Mississippi State pretends to pee in the end. Ole Miss pretends to pee in the end zone and lets the Bulldogs win again.
Yeah, that will forever live in infamy. All right, a very interesting turn of events in the American because UCF lost to Navy. That came out of nowhere. That was Navy's second win ever against the top 25 team, so good for Navy. They played spoiler because now Cincinnati hosting Tulane, the winner, will host the American Championship because that game is on a campus site. There's a possibility that Cincinnati beats Tulane or vice versa, and they have a rematch. But who do you like, at least for now, this week only, Cincinnati hosting Tulane?
Ben Bryant's not healthy, but Cincinnati's home.
Yep.
But Cincinnati hasn't been able to run the ball.
No.
I'm going Green Wave.
Ooh, all right.
Go Green Wave.
All right, I'll go Cincinnati. They've got Evan Prater, who is their highest ranked recruit ever. And assuming he starts a quarterback, which is something that some Cincinnati fans have kind of been asking for, with Ben Bryant. Has played mostly well. I mean, they're 9-2. There's a reason they're 9-2 with his play. But he shows you those inconsistencies sometimes in the deep ball. Just can't hit receivers when needed, although he found a way against East Carolina on Friday last week. So I'm gonna go Bearcats because they're home, but I expect this to be
pretty much a toss-up. Vegas says, right?
Yeah, line is Cincinnati by 2.
And they're home. So that's a toss-up.
Yeah, that's a Friday game at 12 p.m., by the way.
Outstanding.
So, yeah, I would be watching that I will watch the beginning of it probably, if not for U.S.-England, so I'll go back and finish it later. Real quick, North Carolina State at North Carolina.
Weird game.
Yeah.
NC State's got a great defense, but they're all defense ever since Leary got hurt.
Yeah.
They've been hanging on until last week happened. North Carolina, all offense. If Drake May's not a superhero, they don't have a prayer of winning games. So, who do you like? North Carolina finally came back down to earth, though, last week and got beat by Georgia Tech, which was a really bad loss.
Yeah.
I like to think that they bounce back this week, get ready for the ACC title game, and they beat the Wolf Pack. I don't think Drake May's going to have 2 really bad games in a row.
Okay, I'll take NC State just to be different, and their defense is good. What can Drake May do against... There's not a ton of great defenses in the ACC, let's just be honest. No. And NC State is one of them, so I'll go Wolfpack. They end the season 8-4. All right, Florida. By the way, that's also Friday at 3:30. Friday at 7. Why are they playing it Friday? I don't know. I love it. Friday at 7:30.
I can watch it. World Cup's over.
Yeah, Florida State. I like Florida State because Florida's just really struggling down the stretch. Anthony Richardson has his high highs and he has his low lows. I like Florida State, who's one of probably the hottest team in the ACC right now.
Unfortunately, I think Anthony Richardson has a ton of potential, but Florida's inability to run the ball is really hindering his growth.
Yeah.
Last week, they threw it 40 times against Vanderbilt, and that's just not the recipe for him to be successful as a quarterback. I still think he threw for 300 yards, which just shows that he is capable, but that's just not how you really are utilizing his skill set well at this point. The problem is he's the run game and the passing game right now, and that's just too much to ask. Florida State has been ascending this whole time. They're kind of in the shadows because they're in the ACC. Unfortunately, this is the terrible thing for Florida State, if they just find a way to not lose to like Wake Forest, or honestly, I think they could beat Clemson right now. If they find a way to avoid, or I think they lost to NC State too.
Yeah.
If you avoid one of those losses, you're probably looking at a New Year's Six potential berth. They'll still get in a really good bowl game. It's a huge boost of a year for Florida State from a recruitment standpoint. Mike Norvell finally gets going. We'll see. It'll be fun to see what Florida State does next year. They definitely beat Florida, though.
Yeah. All right.
But rivalry week, so who knows?
Yeah, that's right. Speaking of rivalry week, that's a tongue twister. Auburn can go to a bowl game if they beat Alabama at home. Alabama playing at home. Is there any chance Auburn gives Alabama any kind of trouble?
There's a chance for trouble. There's no chance they win.
Yeah.
No chance. No chance. Sorry. I know that rivalry game's weird, but Auburn somehow came out of nowhere and nearly beat them last year. I just don't see that happening twice in a row. Not in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I don't either. It's hard for me to think of a situation where Nick Saban doesn't have this team with double-digit wins. Of course, Alabama.
You had a bye week beforehand.
Yeah,
I mean, you played Austin Peay and had a bye week, so how could you not be ready?
Yeah. All right. Well, there's our picks. Maybe our final picks. I think you're right. I think we do pick championship week, though. So, all right. That takes us to your bets. How'd your bets do? Because we didn't have the show last week because we did a World Cup preview. So how'd you do? The last 2 weeks.
I don't remember the week before, but 5-3. I think it was 5-4 the week before. So we're slowly clawing back. Mm-hmm. I believe our overall record right now is 37-38-3.
Okay.
So we're nearly to 500.
You lost like $5. You're fine.
And we still have time. And you had a great time getting here. So let's be honest, a wild ride. So here's my picks this week. So it is rivalry week.
Yes.
So that being said, the less you bet, the better. Yes. That being said, it's Monopoly money, so it doesn't matter.
That's true.
But first pick, UCLA is only a 10-point favorite against Cal. Now, I know that's a brutal emotional loss, but I like to think DTR and company are going to finish out the year really well. Yeah. Cal is not good. I know they just beat Stanford, but that was kind of their Super Bowl, if you will. to end the season well. Cal's the only team in the conference who lost to Colorado, so thank you for helping us finish the circle of sicko, Cal. But only 10 points, even in Berkeley. No way. Bruins cover 10. Coastal Carolina is a 13.5-point dog at James Madison. I'm going with Coastal. That's because Grayson McCall is not expected to play.
Yeah.
But James Madison should have lost last week and came storming back to win. They're a very good football team, don't get me wrong. How much of that do you have in you? And we already talked about the scholarship issue. Even if Coastal loses, there's no way to me that James Madison covers 13.5. Not a chance. Chanticleers are a good bet this week. Next, I do have Wake Forest covering against Duke. I know this was another one of our pick games. It's only 3.5, though. I think the chances are that Wake Forest wins by more than 3.5. I'm not saying it's a blowout by any means, but I'll say Demon Duke will win by a touchdown. I think that is a decent look. LSU is also only a 10-point favorite against A&M. Players going into the transfer portal, mess all over the place. Jimbo's notebook, which is more like a college-level textbook for accounting.
Oh, gosh.
There's so many wrong things going on with A&M right now. They only beat UMass, I think, 30-3.
Yeah, it was...
Which, that sounds like, oh, well, that's fine. That's awful. Ole Miss is UMass is the worst team in the FBS. Ole Miss, Minutemen, I love you, but it's just true. Like, it's not even close this year. You just are the worst team this year. So, 10 points, even at being in College Station, I think LSU understanding, even though that they have the West locked up, that there is a chance at the playoffs still. They beat A&M. They beat Georgia. I think they're the first two-loss team in the playoffs.
Style points matter.
Against A&M, they matter. Georgia, they don't.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, and LSU already had that sleepwalking moment against Arkansas 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So I think they'll be good. 10 points is not a lot. I think they cover that. Yeah. UCF is a 19.5-point favorite against South Florida. I know this is a big, big number, but South Florida real bad. Mm-hmm. And again, UCF is playing for everything this week. If they lose, they're out. Yeah. There's no scenario if they lose that they're not that they're in the conference title game. So one of my recommendations this week is when you have a team that's really playing for everything and you have a team that's miserably bad, pick the team playing for something. Now, if it's a rival that's good enough to be a spoiler and they're home, be careful. Yeah. But I know that's a huge number. It's not one of my favorite picks this week, but I think UCF can put a lot of points on the board. I think they'll cover that number. Next, I do have Indiana covering against Purdue. You're like, really, Johnny? You think Indiana's going to beat Purdue? Indiana doesn't have a silly little number next to their name. They don't beat Purdue. This is for the old Oaken Bucket, by the way. So all these rivalry games, a lot of them have trophies, so you better make sure that you know what's going on there. But old Oaken Bucket in this game, Indiana does not beat Purdue, but they cover 10.5. I think they cover that game. And I believe it's in Bloomington. So that might be a little bit of an aid. And I think Indiana also is playing for bowl eligibility.
I believe that's right.
So they have something to play for.
Yeah.
And it would be fun to spoil Purdue's season, of course. Now, I also have Houston covering Tulsa. Maybe this is just because I watched that Thursday night football game with Tulsa and South Florida this last week and saw how horrendous that was. But Houston is a 12-point favorite. Again, kind of a big number. Don't absolutely love that, but I believe Houston's home. And again, Houston's still in play, actually, in this American Conference title game. We talked about UCF. If UCF somehow loses, I think that's what Houston needs. Probably is their best opportunity. There's probably some other weird scenario where they somehow get in as well. But for simplicity's sake, they are playing for something here. And Houston's been on a roll since those early struggles and losing tight games. Lastly, I do have Pittsburgh covering against Miami. Miami real bad as well. So Pittsburgh's a 6.5-point favorite. Yeah. I know that you're like, really? But Pittsburgh's not great. Pittsburgh's not great, but they're okay. And Miami is not okay.
Miami had 3 points last week? Is that right?
Oh, against Clemson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they might have gotten a touchdown in there somewhere. But, ooh, it's bad in South Florida right now.
Yes, it is.
So, we'll go with Pitt. I think Pitt covers that. So, any of you severely disagree with?
I don't think you can trust Houston, but otherwise, and I say that Clayton Tune's just a baller. Like, I had Houston going like 11-1, 10-2, and I feel like they're finally showing us the team that I thought they could have been the whole season. They lost a couple close games, and that kind of derailed their season for a little bit. But good to see them back. Potentially with a win, they could end up in the top 25 at the end of the season. Maybe we'll see. Or certainly after a bowl game win, that would give them double-digit wins, I believe, on the year. That'd be my only thought. But otherwise, actually, I think it was pretty solid. The Indiana one, I would probably say I wouldn't touch that at all. I wouldn't touch Indiana Purdue, maybe ever.
You got to pick a fun one.
Yeah.
So the Old Oaken Bucket, I think the Hoosiers. I know they just got that big win against Michigan State in overtime this last week. So maybe they go bowling.
Momentum. Keep it
bowling.
rolling. Speaking of needing to go bowling. Land Grant Trophy, can Michigan State find a way to get past Penn State?
I thought about this one as a bet.
Yeah.
Because Michigan State's going to be a little desperate.
Yeah, they will.
But Penn State wins. They have an outside shot at a Rose Bowl.
Yep.
Now, the Rose Bowl only happens if Ohio State and Michigan are both in the playoff.
Right.
But Rose Bowl at best. At worst, Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl is a great year. After what happened, the debacle that was last year and the COVID year before that, this would be a great step for James Franklin to get going. And honestly, with what Ohio State's losing in C.J. Stroud going into next year, and Michigan is going to be losing players on the offensive line. You expect like Corum to be gone. They lose some of those wide receivers.
Yep.
Some of the defense will be gone. Not that Ohio State, Michigan won't still be good and reload to an extent. Penn State's opportunity with Singleton and Ayler, I believe, at quarterback might be next year.
Mm-hmm.
So you need that momentum. Part of that is winning that Land Grant Trophy, getting to the New Year's Six game.
Yep. Win a big game for once in your life, Penn State.
Honestly, this feels like almost a big game.
Yeah.
You got to win this game to get to the big game. So take care of business. I believe they're a 14-point favorite. I thought about picking the Spartans to cover in this one. It is in Happy Valley.
Yeah.
And that's probably Penn State's saving grace in this one. So I think Penn State probably covers, but I decided not to pick that one.
All right, last pick, and it's not really a pick, it's more a projection. Heisman Trophy. It's been wide open for a while. Hendon Hooker's really out of it, which is really sad, torn ACL, but that kind of eliminates his chance. CJ Stroud hasn't looked fantastic. Max Duggan is doing enough to get his... he's literally... What is TCU's record without Max Duggan? That'd be a great question for really anyone that doubts why he should
will this team to win against Baylor.
It's not all about numbers, but if it is, then Caleb Williams had incredible numbers against UCLA. 500 plus total yards. He elevated. It was finally a game that USC played that probably people watched. That was probably a lot of people's first time watching USC play this season. That's a great game for Caleb Williams. If you had to say right now, who wins the Heisman, who would you pick?
If I have a vote, and I'm picking right now,
I've given you a Heisman.
My vote is for Max Duggan.
Yeah.
Now, I have no argument with Caleb Williams being the answer. And I know CJ Stroud's still the betting favorite, but that's just almost a best player on best team at that point.
Yeah.
And personally, I'd argue Marvin Harrison at that point.
Yeah.
Now, all that said, Max Duggan wills his team to win. And numbers don't mean everything.
Yeah.
That was a Heisman moment to me. That scramble drill, the dive out of bounds, the 15-yard run to get them into field goal range to save the season in Waco this week. And he's done things like that all year. Caleb Williams, brilliant against UCLA. He'd be the first quarterback taken probably this season because he's a little taller than Bryce Young. So he's been outstanding. That was on a platform and opportunity. That's always the big thing with the Heisman. It's not just stats. It's also on the big stage, what do you do? Blake Corum, I was going to say, had an equal opportunity as C.J. Stroud coming in this week, playing in the game. Now, I'm assuming he's not really playing, and it's gamesmanship, or maybe he gives it a go, but I doubt he's going to be ready. He tried to come back in that Illinois game, and I'm sure he's doing everything he can right now, and maybe Michigan doesn't even know whether he's going to be playing right now. So he has a chance if he plays. CJ Stroud is really the guy that can leap ahead, though, this week, in my opinion. Now, Caleb Williams plays Notre Dame. If he's brilliant again, he's going to take a big lead because Max Duggan gets to Iowa State. And unfortunately, Max Duggan's not getting the credit that he deserves. Yep. So if I'm deciding who I think is going to win it, my money would be on Caleb.
I agree. Yeah. It's exactly what you said, and I tweeted it out kind of in the moment as Caleb Williams is putting the finishing touches on that great, crazy win. It's because he has games against Notre Dame and Oregon to close out his year. That's just... There's nothing that's going to top that. Even Ohio State, if CJ Stroud throws for 500 against Michigan and hand it to him right then and there.
Yeah, it'll be over.
It'll be over. But assuming that doesn't happen, assuming we get kind of an ugly game in Columbus, which I'm actually kind of expecting, nothing's going to be able to top the opponents that Caleb Williams has a chance to go against. Iowa State and Kansas State, I'm sorry, that's just not going to be the same thing. Now, maybe Max Duggan throws for 500 against both teams, and maybe he does win it. But I agree with your assessment. I think Max Duggan is the most deserving. Caleb Williams is the most likely to win it.
That's not to say Caleb's not. He's been brilliant.
Yeah, certainly.
And he might be the most valuable player on any team this season.
Yeah.
I also almost feel for Max Duggan because this is another one of my soapboxes of people say this year, it's a down year for the Big 12. It's not.
No.
It's not a down year for the Big 12. It's a down year for Texas and Oklahoma. That's not the same.
Yeah.
If you swapped logos with TCU and Texas, TCU and Oklahoma, Max Duggan's the lead of the Heisman right now. But unfortunately, that's part of college football. Is if you're a blue blood, you get the benefit of the doubt as opposed to others. Now, if Max Duggan doesn't get invited, we riot.
Yes.
But it really does feel like it's one of those three. Mm-hmm. With Corum being still an outside shot with health. Yeah. With health. But it's really come down to the three quarterbacks, in my opinion, at this point. I don't see anybody else hopping in the race late, but nobody sees control of it. It's been one of the more fun Heisman races we've had in a long time.
Even when you've had like outside, I'm gonna say outside chances, like Drake May, if he beats Clemson, again, this is before the Georgia Tech loss, if he would have had a normal game against Georgia Tech, win, beat Clemson, you're like, okay, his stats are insane.
Maybe.
Hadn't really played anybody up to that point, but a win versus Clemson says a lot. Same thing with Bo Nix. Bo Nix was trending in the right direction, then they lose to Washington. That kind of goes away.
He even played well. But you can't lose.
Yeah, you can't lose. He played. I was surprised he played. That was partly my reason for picking Utah last week, is because we thought he was injured. Played anyways. Did enough to get Oregon that win. So, I mean, I don't even remember the last time we've had a Heisman race this open at this point in the season.
I mean, even when the last time it was competitive like this, I would say, is Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry, but that was clearly a two-horse race at least.
Yeah.
Where one of them was winning the Heisman, and you almost felt bad picking one of them. They were both so deserving. Yeah. This year, I'd almost say, you're almost like, who do I give it to? Yeah. Now, I felt more that way before last week. Mm-hmm. This last week with Max Duggan kind of having that moment finally.
Yeah.
And I will say that was a decent stage, being on noon, just everybody's watching you and Michigan at that point. And then Caleb Williams clearly had a moment. I know it wasn't necessarily a game-winning drive at the end, but he was brilliant and had so many highlight throws in that battle. And they were a standalone game, except for the fact that South Carolina was beating the brakes off of the Volunteers. Crazy. But I feel better about one of those guys winning the Heisman now. Like, you had that moment.
Yep.
But all that said, both those guys could still lose. CJ Stroud could still lose. Mm-hmm.
What happens if all three of them lose?
I doubt all three of them lose.
They won't.
But if all three of them lose, is Bryce Young available still?
Jaden Daniels, if he beats Georgia?
He's still on my list. If he beats Georgia, he's got to be considered. Yeah. Now, his stats aren't very good, but those would be two.
He's going to run at that point, though. He's probably rushed for 1,000.
Those would be two of the best wins of the season, and sometimes that trumps a lot of other things. So we'll see. It'll be a fun race. It won't, unless CJ Stroud throws for 400 or 500 yards. clearly the reason the Buckeyes win.
Right.
It won't be over next week either.
No,
we'll go down to the last week of the season. Because TCU and USC will both be playing, and we'll see if the Buckeyes will on Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, Johnny, thanks for hanging out on the blue couch tonight. This was fun. We'll talk to you guys next week. Probably not here, but
is that the name of this show now? The Blue Couch?
I think so. I think it needs to be
the Blue Couch.
Yeah,
I like it.
Blue Couch Sports. We're changing our whole thing. We just released merch. You should go buy it, but buy it now because it's going away because we changed our whole logo. So, all right, I'm gonna awkwardly go over there and hit the end stream button on my computer because that's how I'm gonna end the stream. But YouTube, thanks for hanging out.
If you have questions, football, World Cup, anything, hit us up on Twitter, 5th and Goal, Instagram, 5th and Goal, or my personal on Twitter as well.
There you go.
Live tweeting those games.
It's if you want to know where the thing for Twitter is, it's right.
It's right down here.
Right there.
Here.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. See you guys later.